I am the Reverend Susan Sahusky Brown, interim minister here at South Church. And on behalf of this congregation, I offer you Carol, the sister of Linda, your spouse, Cody, her cousins, Sharon and Laurel, her other relatives, her stepchildren, and all her friends, our heartfelt sympathy. Any and all of us who had interactions with Linda are blessed with wonderful memories and warm thoughts. She touched us, each and every one of us, deeply. And it is with sadness that we are gathering here today for this ceremony. But let it be an opportunity to celebrate who she was and all her gifts to the world. I've asked Valerie Cunningham to light the chalice. In acknowledgement of the universal light within each and every one of us, and in our time of sadness, we kindle this flame of ongoing life. At this time, when we search for understanding and serenity in the face of loss, we light this chalice as a sign of our quest for love, meaning, and community. Thank you, Valerie. We have gathered here today to reflect on the life of Linda Keeffe, to listen to readings and stories as we grieve her death, and to celebrate the unique and special woman that she was and the influence she had on each and every one of us. An author wrote the following words. They certainly speak to my impression of Linda. Because of her and her special qualities, I am a better person. Her sincerity, her optimism, her generosity gave me and many others strength. She was an anchor. She helped us over rough spots and through difficult times. And she is owed a ton of respect and gratitude. She gave life a special glow. And we have gathered to remember with love the relative, our friend, our community member, our beloved Linda, who has died. All living things must die, as we too will someday die. It makes us sad that this is so, but nothing lives forever. Our world is cyclical. We are born, we live, we die. Our world is interrelated. For each act, there is an interaction. For each birth, a death. Our world is beautiful. The trees and the flowers, the rivers and the oceans, the city and the country. Our world is temporary. We cry, we sing, we laugh, we mourn. These are the way of the world. And loss and sadness is too. And it is good to be together, for all life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born, in its living, and at its dying. And it is appropriate to mourn. As the author of Ecclesiastes wrote in chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, time for love and a time to hate, time for war and a time for peace. For everything, there is a purpose. And today, it is our time to remember her. If you read her obituary like me, you probably, and I'm sure in awe of all the things she did, all her interests, all her skills, all her talents. Reading that was great and informative. But as for me, it was the interactions that I had with her that I was most touched by. She was impish. She was clever. She was kind. And she was considerate. When visiting with Linda near the end of her days, I asked her about her wishes following her death. She told me I had permission to work with Carol to have a gathering like this for her friends and for family. But as for her, she didn't need anything. That humility, that practicality, and that caring about others is one of her, or many of her qualities that I really treasure. So we are gathered here because we care, and because we need one another, and because we want to speak aloud the many qualities of this wonderful woman. When she was in hospital and still hopeful that she would return to health or at least to her home, I shared with her the thoughts so many of you sent to Angela Matthews, who compiled all of those reflections. As I sat with Linda and read the comments, she was deeply touched. She giggled. She sometimes even guessed before I said who wrote the comments, who it was. She teared up, and then she told me, this is what every single person should experience before they die. They should be able to have the knowledge that this is what people think about them before they are not around any longer. And in her humbleness, she didn't even realize how much she meant to people, but she did. Soon, many of you will be given the opportunity to share a brief recollection or a story, but I want you to know how very touched Linda was as I read your words to her. Precious and beautiful memories for us all. And Linda, we are going to do this for one another because you've encouraged us to do this. And from now on forward, you will carry memories of her in your mind and in your heart. We know that her life held rich and deep meaning, and you are now the custodian of those shared memories. Speak those memories with love often, and relive those memories clearly, etched in your mind and your heart. And yet, though our sadness is great, we are also full of gladness that she lived, and we're thankful that we knew her, and we're so blessed because of her love and her care. It is important that we have met today, and her family is ever so grateful to each and every one of you for the support and sympathy that you have offered to them, because by doing that, you have affirmed her life. You have affirmed that Linda was important. You have affirmed that life matters. May we be gathered together in a prayerful attitude. Spirit of life, may our tears be lessened by the presence of family and friends who have joined hearts together today. And let us remember that many others have known the darkness of the valley we are in now. And though their grief was bleak and lonely in time, their sorrow lessened. May our thoughts and prayers teach us to savor life anew each day and every day. For if what is so precious can be lost, then we pray to learn how to more fully cherish the time that remains. So let us offer love to one another, the love that knows no limits, no boundaries or barriers that would keep us from one another. And may the strength and caring of others reconfirm that goodness is at the very heart of the universe. Amen. Please listen to this music as you center and think about Linda. Nancy Wood wrote, "For a time I have lived with you, and now we must be going separately to be together. Perhaps I shall be the wind to blur your smooth waters so that you do not see your face too much. Perhaps I shall be the star to guide your uncertain wings so that you have direction in the night. Perhaps I shall be the fire to separate your thoughts so that you do not give up. Perhaps I shall be the rain to open up the earth so that your seed may fall. Perhaps I shall be the snow to let your blossoms sleep so that you may bloom in spring. Perhaps I shall be the stream to play a song on the rock so that you are not alone. Perhaps I shall be a new mountain so that you always have a home. She and her spirit is with us always." I invite you now to turn our attention to Carol, her sister. Carol, will you come up here with me and share some words and memories with us? And then will you let us share some of our memories of Linda with you?
Now I see how many people are here. Thank you so much for coming here. You're all Linda's precious friends, and friends were always the most important thing to her throughout her life. We almost had a very special person here today, Linda's stepson, Alan Keeffe. He had a flight scheduled from Colorado Springs, but it was canceled at the last minute. Hello to Alan and his wife, Cindy, who are watching on live stream, and to other people who I know are watching. Linda's dear friend, Margie Allison in Colorado Springs, Eileen Shevelin in Dover, and Sharon and Laurel, cousins who are in Massachusetts. I met Linda when I was 1 day old, and she was 4 years old. Our mother told Linda, "This is your own very sister." So Linda, with her thick braids and big bright eyes, played with my fingers and thought I was the best thing ever. She loved me unconditionally like that all her life. How lucky I was. Linda was an achiever early on. We both had dolls, of course. Our mother, I thought mine looked so good on the shelf in my bedroom. Then I learned Linda designed and hand-sewed a whole wardrobe for hers. After a happy and interesting childhood and high school years, Linda graduated from Bates and married Alan Pollock, also from Bates. Alan's brother, Lee Pollock, and his wife, Sylvia, both also friends at Bates, are with us here today. They've been a great help to Linda and me for months throughout Linda's illness. Linda and Alan lived in Harvard Square for a while, where she taught high school biology. Later, she worked with a Harvard professor to research, document, and restore antique instruments owned by Harvard and establish them in a museum. A few years later, they moved to Colorado, where Linda was a programmer for Command Sciences. After a while there, she and Alan parted as very good friends. A few years later, she married Richard Keeffe, a widower with 4 children. Dick was a professional mathematician. The day I met Dick in his office at Command, he was working on a project for the government, calculating the impact of various nuclear bombs with a slide rule. Because his work was classified, I never knew any more. I think you know Linda put enormous energy and commitment into everything she did. She was always striving, learning, studying, doing, producing, and going to the next level, whether it was a solitary activity or something with others. She was stepmother to 4 children while working for full-time. And while doing those, she rose at 4 a.m. every day to train for marathons with 5 close friends. They flew to other parts of the country together to run marathons. And while doing that, she went to the University of Colorado at night to get a master's degree in substance abuse counseling. If you're wondering how she did all of this, she required only a few hours of sleep. She was tiny but very healthy and strong, and I thought of her as a little giant. She studied and learned about everything she was interested in, and she continued to choose new things to engage her mind, body, and spirit throughout her life. Constant things throughout her life were professional sewing, embroidery, music, and literature. She made most of her own clothes, she kind of had to, and had her own business making specialty clothes on order. Excuse me. Linda ran 28 marathons. There's a difficult goal for hobby runners, which is 3 hours. Linda ran her best marathon in 3 hours and 88 seconds. That was her way of saying 3 hours, 1 minute, and 28 seconds, but it sounds better. It was remarkable for somebody who took 3 steps while everybody else was taking 2. One of the pictures on the board is Linda running the Boston Marathon. She was passing a tall man who's looking aside at her. He has an expression which seems to be saying, "What? This pipsqueak is passing me?" Cody and I were at the end of a marathon she ran in Portland, Maine. Other runners finish grimacing, bending over, even lying on the ground, holding their legs, or stumbling off the sidelines to sit or fall down. Linda, with a big smile, had to keep running in place to settle herself down at the end. Once calmed down, she would light up a cigarette. She never thought she was small. Other people were always taller, so they were her frame of reference, and it seemed to her she was the same size. Cody and I went on an RV trip with Linda and Dick through the national parks in the West. One morning in Taos, New Mexico, Linda rose very early as usual to run, even though it was snowing. She had to stop to cross the street. An elementary school bus stopped to pick her up. For many years, Linda was a substance abuse counselor in private practice with another woman. She specialized in chemical dependence and women's issues. She found this very rewarding because she loved working with people. Fittingly, the business was called Positive Change. At the same time she was running, Linda enjoyed biking, which she did with the same hardworking attitude and energy. She and her husband rode their bikes throughout Ireland and New Zealand and many organized trips in the United States. Almost the whole family flew to Burlington, Vermont, then biked to Mount Desert Island to see her parents, just a few days' trip. She still rode her bike once she moved here when she was 65, loving the ride over the Memorial Bridge into Portsmouth. She so loved it here. After a few years, she put her bike in a stand in the house and rode to classical music. Linda had 3 very serious struggles in her life. She faced each of them with courage and immense effort to heal herself by herself. Her strength, determination, love of life, and spirit triumphed. When Linda moved to the seacoast, she branched out to yet more new things. She was a recording secretary for the Town of Elliott Planning Board of Appeals. Then she took classes to learn how to teach someone to read and taught a dyslexic man to read. Eventually, she found the magical elixirs that complemented her spirit and her very soul, and that was her love of people and the missions of South Church and the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire. As you know, Linda's final struggle was physical, and she faced her pain and limitations with courage and optimism. She was determined to get well and worked hard at that with no complaint ever. Eventually, she knew she could not make herself healthy again. And 3 days before she passed, hospice care was the only option. That day, 3 days before she passed, Linda showed despair for the first time that I know of and cried to me, "I love my life. I still have so much more to do." The picture on the back of Linda's card is of a large tree branching out in all directions from a strong trunk. It enfolds the sunlight. To me, this is a representation of the way Linda lived her life, always branching out to new possibilities, working hard and reaching her goals. All of her life, she learned and grew. Although it's so sad to think of her saying she still had so much more to do, I'm trying to see things in a positive light. Many people experience diminished abilities as they become older. Life becomes so much less for them, and they become frustrated, sad, or angry, often dwelling regretfully on better times. But Linda kept growing and experiencing things and people she loved, even when she was compromised and in a great deal of pain. To finish life with a love of what she was doing and a desire to do more is a blessing. I'm holding that thought as a comfort to me, and I hope you will. A close friend of Linda wrote the following to me after she passed. "It's amazing how my closest loved ones come to live more vibrantly in me. In the days and years ahead, she will be a presence in unexpected and loving ways. Be alert for those moments and don't doubt." I've already learned this is true, and I do not doubt. Thank you for bringing opportunity into her life, for recognizing who she was, and bringing love to her. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your words. They help us to begin to capture the fullness of Linda's life, and today is just the beginning of that time to share. Carol, we hold you in love and prayer. As Carol said, Linda was deeply involved helping those with substance abuse and addictions learn how to emerge from the depths of despair. She was a beloved counselor and role model to those who suffered from addiction, and I know that she would appreciate the sentiments of this poem by Ida Scott Taylor. One day at a time. One day at a time, this is enough. Do not look back and grieve over the past, for it is gone, and do not be troubled about the future, for it has not yet come. Live in the present and make it so beautiful that it will be worth remembering. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "To love often and love much, to win the respect of intelligent persons and the affection of youth, to earn the respect of honest critics and to endure without flinching the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty always, whether in earth's creation or others' handiwork, to have sought for and found the best in others, and to have given it oneself, to leave the world better than one found it, whether by children or friends, a garden, or a redeemed social condition, to have played with enthusiasm, laughed with exuberance, and sung with exultation, to go down to dust and dreams, knowing the world is a wee bit better, and that even a single life breathes better because we have lived well. This is to have succeeded in life. His words are a reminder that Linda truly did succeed. At the memorial service for Coretta Scott King, Reverend Robert Schuler shared these words, and I quote these in part, for I believe Linda would say them to encourage us to heal and to feel at ease about her death and to let us know that life is even more powerful than death. Believe in your dream. Never throw it away. Believe in your dream, even when it is impossible. Believe in the stars, even when they've hidden in the storm. Believe in love, even when you can't find it or feel it. Believe in faith, even when God is silent. So turn your hurts into halos. I did turn scars into stars. I did. And you will come as I come to the last breath. You will come with pride behind you, love around you, and hope ahead of you. Linda lived life with deep richness. She touched many others. She was involved in the many ministries within this congregation. She was immersed in the Black Heritage Trail. She was an interesting and interested person. And I can never sum up all the essence of Linda. It is up to us gathered here to do that. And I would now invite Jerry Ann Bogus to come up here and tell us how Linda was connected with the Black Heritage Trail and how she was a motivator of others. Do you want to? There you go.
So, it is indeed my honor to speak here on behalf of the trail, honoring my friend, Linda Keeffe. I really sat down and tried to put words to paper, knowing Linda's love for language and her belief in words. But I really wanted to speak from the heart. And I think that's more what Linda would do when she spoke from the heart. But I had to write one sentence. Because Linda, if you're on our email list, you'll know that Linda had to make her mark with words. And my sentence is, Linda was a ball of energy and fierce determination wrapped up in a tiny package of willpower and grit. Amen. And that's how I saw Linda. 10 years ago, Valerie Cunningham dragged Linda into our organization, as everybody gets dragged into our organization. And you never leave. And that's what it was with Linda. Valerie told her that we had this tiny little job for her to do, and it was to sort out some of the documents that Valerie had collected. You have to see the room that's filled with documents that Valerie has collected. It would take many lifetimes for Linda to sort those out. But she joined the trail, and in so doing, gained a different understanding, a fresher understanding of the world in which we lived, seen through the eyes of the other. And it became a great passion for Linda. Linda read everything she could, and she shared everything, even her own story, her own awakening to the other, to the whole notion of race, inclusion, exclusion, and what that meant to her. And then we discovered that she had the great skill of organizing people and getting people to do things that they really didn't want to do. But they did it anyway, so she became our volunteer coordinator. And if you get a chance to come by our office, this is how valued she was. The volunteers created a memorial wall at our office for her as one of the ways that we all want to remember her. And the headlines of her emails are there to see her wit and the way she pulled you in. There is one I'll say that everybody read because we were so scared when we saw the title. The title said, Deceiver. That was it. And it was, when you opened and read it, you had to open that one. There's no way you could not open it. It's like, what did somebody do to Linda? Oh my God. But when we opened it, it was, she was telling everybody the great job they did, that how they deceived us in saying it was hard, but they did this amazing job. So that's Linda's wit. Also, I learned from Linda this whole sense of dedication. Linda, when she was ill, no matter what, never missed a meeting. She could hardly walk, and she came to the unveiling of our markers. She was getting her chemo treatment, and she called into the meetings. And I'm going, Linda, you don't have to do this. And she said, it keeps me alive. It's something I want to do. And that sense of determination, that sense of being filled with life is something I'll always have for Linda. And I'll just take a moment for us who are left behind, who mourning her passing. I wanted to read this poem. It's by Renee Maria Rilke, From Sonnets to Orpheus. The title is, Let This Darkness Be a Bell Toll. Quiet friend who have come so far, feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Let the darkness be a bell tower, and you the bell as you ring. What batters you becomes your strength. Move back and forth into the changes. What is it like, such intensity of pain? If the drink is bitter, turn yourself to wine. In this uncontainable night, be the mystery at the crossroads of your senses, the meaning discovered there. And if the world has ceased to hear you, say to the silent earth, I flow. To the rushing waters, speak, I am. There's an African proverb that says the dead is never gone. They remain in the wind that we hear, in the rustles of the leaves, in the whispers of the wind. And I think, Linda, as her sister said, if we really listen, Linda will be still guiding us as we take our steps, just like the ancestors did at the burying ground when they needed to give us a wake-up call. I'm sure Linda will be giving us that wake-up call, and we'll hear them all in capital letters as she wrote them for us. Thank you.
I'm Robert Thompson. I have the privilege of being the first president of the Black Heritage Trail. I didn't know Linda personally. But when I think of her, I think of the words to a song that we used to sing. May the work I've done speak for me. May the work I've done speak for me. When my life is gone, look at the sun, and may the works I've done speak for me. Her works were generosity, purpose, clarity. This is a time when there is a great deal of angst and energy around the notion of racial justice and racial injustice. For many of my European American friends, they are torn what to do. How can I respond responsibly, burdened with the sense of guilt and responsibility? If you were one of those, I encourage you to look at Linda's life. She didn't seem to be confused about what she could do. She simply did it. And what she did was immeasurable. I cannot imagine the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire without Linda Keeffe's presence and commitment and quiet, consistent service. What a gift. What a way to live one's life. What more can one say than when invited to look at another's life to see this is a good life, a kind life, a sweet life, a worthy life. When we see a life like this, we all should just say thank you and amen for a life well lived. Thank you. Amen.
Just take a moment to reflect on what has been shared. And in a moment, I'll invite anyone else who is so moved to share your memories and reflections with us, understanding that today is just the beginning of sharing how your life and Linda's was connected and interwoven. And please remember that it is not possible to say everything today, and that is okay. For her life is a lasting gift to be talked about often. And also after this service, there will be time to gather in the sanctuary and in the entry area to meet and talk with family, look at pictures, and share your memories with one another. I will invite you into some moments of silence and reflection to think on the words that you wish to share. And please listen to this musical interlude as you hold in your heart all the words that you want to share with one another. If the Spirit moves and you wish to share a story, a memory, a word about Linda, then I would invite you to come forward to this mic and speak your thoughts for us to hear and enjoy and take into our being even more the essence of this wonderful woman.
excuse me. I have known Carol and Linda, but I actually knew their parents before I got to know them. Carol's parents and my grandparents were good friends and were summer resident neighbors in Southwest Harbor, Maine. I got to know of Linda and Carol through their parents, and the apple did not fall far from the tree. Carol's and Linda's dad, he was involved in many things, and he made an impact on many lives. Her mom was the quieter of the two, but she made an impact on anybody's life. I'm blessed to have known them. In the last 10, 12 years, Carol has become my very, very best friend, and I'm honored. But Linda, there's so many cute stories about her, too many to share, but just I want people to know that as tiny as she was 10 feet tall. She was not a bragger. Sometimes she would do things and it would come into conversation with the Black History Museum, and it turns out she involved and organized all these volunteers, and she had food, and I would just sit back and say, she was not one to brag about it. That was just Linda. She did it well, and I will always remember that. She drew people. I've met her friend Jean through them. They came up. I mean, she had a personality that just drew people to her. And I'm honored to have known her. And her stories of her beautiful Lily, her cat, and Molly, and of course her orphan Annie that ran and was everywhere with her. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And she loved her church. She would always talk to me about it, and I can see why. I'm blessed. Thank you.
I had become somewhat of a hermit before I met Linda. I moved to Maine with my new husband, and we had a wonderful German Shepherd, and we lived in the woods, and I had my books and my music and my art, and I was very content, I thought. And then I was fortunate enough to meet Linda, and she brought me back into the world. She brought me back to this church that I love. I had been to a Unitarian church in the past, but for years, when I was taking care of my parents, I didn't even think about it. And all of a sudden, she brought me back into the church. She brought me back to going to plays, to going back to art galleries, to introducing me to fascinating people, and all of her wonderful relatives, Carol and Cody, and all of her friends. And she just enriched my life more than you could imagine. And every morning we spoke. And she was one of the best listeners I have ever come across. And she was positive about everything. And she was so thrilled with the work she was doing with the Black Heritage Trail. We would always talk about it. And when she had to send out an email to volunteers, she wanted to make it funny and witty, and she would test it on me. And it was always perfect. And I could wake up in the morning with a terrible mood. And I'd call Linda, and in a few minutes, that mood would dissipate, and I would start having joy. And I miss her terribly, but she's still with me. And she always will be with me, as she will always be, I'm sure, with all of you that loved her as much as I did.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade Mitchell. I'm with the Black Heritage Trail, one of the tour guides. I'm also an actor. I've known Linda about 8 years since I've been with the Black Heritage Trail. What got me is her sense of humor. And she had a lot of courage because she was a feisty little woman. No, it's just, you look at her and you wouldn't think it, but it's incredible. And in her feistiness, I was speaking with Valerie Cunningham one day, and we were talking about nothing really special, but she said, you're not really tall, she said, so I don't know what to say about how I would describe you. I said, well, how about short, dark, and handsome? And Linda spoke up and said, well, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. And I paused for a moment, and I looked at her and I said, what did you just say to me, lady? And she said, I said 1 out of 3 ain't bad. So at that moment I said, all right. I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna keep my eye on you. I said, I'm definitely gonna be watching you. And she goes, go ahead and watch. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna have to watch you, I said, because you got some mischief about you. And like after that point, we became like best friends. I mean, just that she had the audacity actually to make that comment, because what she basically said was she called me short. That's pretty much what she said. That's what she meant by 1 out of 3 ain't bad. You're short. So, but yeah, that's just one of the memories I have about it. She was a wonderful, beautiful lady, and I miss her very much. I was fortunate enough to speak to her a couple of days before she died. I had found out that she was in hospice, so I called her to see how she was doing and wish her well, and let her know that she was going to be well missed by everyone at the Black Heritage Trail, by myself. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I'm losing my #1 fan. And so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell just a little story. I was thinking of what to tell Carol that she could put in the obituary about what Linda did. Well, she worked as a pastoral associate, a fellowship associate, a social justice associate. And the thing I want to tell you that she did was that she came to my house from October to May, twice a month, to be part of a small group that discussed ideas in our lives and how we could live our faith. And so that's how I got to know her. It was a gift. The groups are supposed to do social service projects. And the one we did that Linda created was hospitality. We were the kitchen crew for the new member dinner downstairs in the fellowship hall. And one of us created gorgeous flowers for the table. Others of us brought food. Linda said, I know that kitchen inside out. So she was in charge of the kitchen. And the other thing she said was, I want you all to put on aprons. Colorful, fun aprons, and we're going to wear our aprons. We did, and it was the most fun time I ever had downstairs. That's my story.
Hi, I'm just going to just very briefly say that Linda was one of the first people I met when I came to South Church in 2013. She, Jean, and Kathy Bean were downstairs at social hour, and they welcomed me and made me feel at home right away. And that made a big difference for me. And I am very lucky to have called, or to call Linda my friend, as all of you are, because I think we all know how fascinating and wonderful and amazing and quick-witted and everything else that she is. But to me, the thing that sticks with me most is she was so much fun to hug, because she loved being hugged, and she was a great hugger, and she especially loved it when Tom would hug her, because he'd just wrap his arms around her and lift her right off the ground, and you could just see the huge grin on her face, because you know, she just loved people and loved sharing with them, and hugging was just one of the ways that you could do that with her. So I miss hugging her a lot.
I've been grappling for days, trying to figure out how I can share little snippets. And, you know, there's so many, I can't begin. But I will say that she was a blast to do things with. We would follow bus trips that the Black Heritage Trail would be doing, and we'd find the driver being distracted by somebody here, and therefore almost missing a turn, and then, and we knew exactly what was going on. Somebody was talking a lot. And we knew who it was, and we understood. It was just fun. She was a stitch to be with. Another time, I remember we were meeting some people for lunch, and this really good-looking guy drove by in a car, and we were both going. She said, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah." So anyway, we're going into the restaurant for lunch, and I kept moving her so she'd be next to that guy. Didn't work out, but you know. She was a character, and we had so much fun together doing various tasks, mostly having to do with the Black Heritage Trail, mostly when they didn't have a wonderfully automated bookkeeping system so that we did everything in Excel. And one of the things I think I've been realizing is that some of my best friends have been really tiny people. I mean, it makes me feel weird, but she was tiny. And yet I never thought of her that way. I don't think any of us did. And she will, one of the things I did think of that I thought might be a succinct way to put some closure on what I think about Linda is, I often think, what would Linda do?
Yeah.
You know? She was a very thoughtful person, very caring person. And I think that if all of us said to ourselves, what would Linda do? We'd be making some good choices.
So I had the privilege of sitting behind Linda on the bus that was mentioned earlier, where Black Heritage Trail took to Washington, D.C. And she always had that elfish grin on her face, and we were bantering back and forth because she got my sense of humor, I got her sense of humor. So at one point, she started doing to me. So I would do to her. So that was going on since the trip to DC, but she was a lovely person and very funny. And I wish now I had printed out some of the headlines from some of her emails. It was just hilarious. Some of them were just, you just couldn't help. You had to read all her emails because of the lining, the headline. Just like Deceived, there were just many, many others. So.
I had the distinct privilege of getting to know Linda when our terms on the Pastoral Associates overlapped. And we've heard lots of stories about her sense of humor and her wit. But I'm here to tell you that her heart was about this big. She always cared for other people, and even when she was starting to have issues herself, she just did not want to leave that team. It was, what can I do for someone else? How can I help someone else? So what a combination, a quick wit and a huge heart. That's the Linda that I know.
What wonderful, wonderful stories. What wonderful words to hear about that beloved, beloved woman who we're all going to miss so terribly much. And she now dwells at peace in the halls of memory, and it is our hallowed treasure to keep. I suspect Linda would like the words of this poem that I offer to you. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away into the next room. I am I and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in that easy way you used to. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the ghost of a shadow on it. Life means all that it has ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is an absolutely unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? Love is waiting for you. The same love that brought the stars and sun into being sent me to you and will send you more goodness and grace than you can imagine. My soul is soaring on its journey home. Neither of us has to wait for the kingdom of heaven because it is now here in our midst. All is well. And we have gathered not only to mourn Linda's death, but to reflect on the reality of death, the one reality which each and every one of us shares. And I found these words that Ingersoll wrote in The House of Death to mirror some of my own beliefs, and I share them with you. I had rather think of those I have loved and lost as having returned to the earth, as having become part of the elemental wealth of the world. I would rather dream of them as unconscious dust. I would rather dream of them as laughing in the stream, floating in the clouds, bursting in the light upon the shores of other worlds. I would rather think of them as the lost visions of forgotten night than to have the faintest fear. But as for me, I will leave the dead where nature leaves them. Whatever flower of hope springs in my heart, I will cherish, and I will give it breath of sighs and rain of tears. So let us gather ourselves in prayerful thoughts. Dear Spirit of life and love, dear God, dear source of all that is precious, for this precious community that holds us together, we give thanks. For precious and sacred space where we can share memories, we give thanks. For the opportunity to reflect on life and death and how they are all interconnected, we give thanks. And now unto the great unknown, we commend our beloved Linda, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We let her go with our love and deep affection. It is the way of the world. Welcome the spirit of our beloved Linda. Receive her into all that is good, for we trust that a peaceful goodness is at the heart of all eternity. A peace that accepts and welcomes all of us when our death comes, a love and gentle peacefulness unto which we will now leave her with our blessings and our prayers. And let us learn to be grateful for the years we had and to treasure the days we have remaining here on this earth. And as we prepare to part, may we be so with peace in our hearts, and may we look to the day assured that tomorrow the sun will rise again. And may it be so. In closing, I share this reading by the poet Tagore. Peace, my heart, let the time of parting be sweet. Let it not be a death, but completeness. Let love melt into memory and pain into song. Let the flight through the sky end in the folding of the wings over the nest. Let the last touch of your hands be gentle like the flower of the night. Stand still, O beautiful end, for a moment, and say your last words in silence. And I bow to you and hold up my lamp to light you on your way. Take a moment of silence to commit to memory and to your heart all of the gifts that Linda graced you and our world with. And now for us, the living, it is time to leave. May the love of friends, the radiance of memory, the hope for an abundant life, the power of love fill us with strength and peace, that we may greet the breaking of tomorrow's dawn with praise and love for one another. Blessed be. Go in peace. Go in peace. Amen.